So I guess I'm living on the edge of post-modernity. I'm not sure because Reddit can't seem to come to a consensus on that, so. But either way, I'm living in the dizzying age of information. And if I'm being honest, some days my brain fog is so thick I can hardly think straight or think at all, to be honest. Studies have shown that modernity itself is linked to an increase in both anxiety and depression. Rapid urbanization is almost always followed by a wave of sedentariness, sleep dysfunction, chronic illness, and our favorite, isolation. It's crazy to think I live in a world in which multitasking is almost a societal requirement, even though our society is advanced enough to know that prolonged multitasking is literally harmful to the human brain. But it's like every job description I've ever read says must be good at multitasking, along with must perform well under pressure, must easily adapt to constant change, must enjoy working in a fast-paced environment. It's as if they're saying, if you cannot meet our unreasonable productivity standards, we will find an AI who can. If you don't feel that being paid little over minimum wage to do all that we're asking is fair, we will find someone who does. If you are unwilling to succumb to poor treatment for the sake of somebody else's bottom line, we will find someone too desperate and in need of a paycheck to care. You are replaceable. So I hope you guys don't mind. I'm a little hungry, so I'm going to take this time to fix myself something to eat and also share a little story with you guys. I used to work at a call center. The hardest part about working at a call center wasn't necessarily the grueling nature of the job itself, but rather it was being surrounded by so much dejection day in and day out. The morale in the office was so low, and management was insufferably bad. One day, a manager told me that he didn't understand why people in the office seemed to be so unsatisfied. And he disclosed that an employee actually told him that they just wanted to be treated more like a human being rather than a number. And I know for a fact that this particular employee was a star employee. They had incredible production scores, and management actually relied on this person a lot for extra work because they knew that this person would get the job done. So it was really surprising to me that he did not take this person's concerns seriously. And he concluded that it must just be a cultural difference. Now, keep in mind, this particular manager was a white man from California, and our contact center was located in the South. And if I had to guesstimate, I would say about 70 to 75% of our floor, excluding management, was comprised of Black people. So the fact that he then went on to say, I guess you'll just never find people here with the same work ethic as Californians, I took it as an insult, because he was not referring to other coworkers he had had in California or his experience at other contact centers in California. He was referring to himself and his boss. And to put the cherry on top, he was saying all of this during my quarterly review. And when he said that to me, I took that to mean that nothing I've said has he taken seriously or does he intend to do anything about. It was a couple weeks later that I turned in my 3 weeks notice to that manager directly. The current job market is not simply competitive like we've been taught. It is also predatory, exploitative, and ableist. And I'm honestly still trying to wrap my mind around the fact that this is the world that I live in. It is so hard. You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew you never knew. That is Colors of the Wind, written by Stephen Schwartz and Alan Menken, released May 30th, 1995. So, it is just a children's song written for a wildly inaccurate animated adaptation of the life and legacy of Pocahontas. I watched this film as an adult, and honestly, it was so hard to stomach. However, the song Colors of the Wind felt so rich to me amidst a film that felt so wrong. So I decided to find out who wrote it and why. And I was surprised to discover that the song itself is actually written by a Jewish American man named Stephen Schwartz. And he says he based the song off of the legendary speech given by Indigenous leader Chief Seattle in the 1800s. Now, there are no official accounts or transcripts of this speech. However, a man named Dr. Henry A. Smith crafted an account of his own. The speech itself was not given in English, so just given that fact, the account is probably wildly inaccurate. Also, Henry was a part-time poet, so he likely took a lot of creative liberties in writing down this account, so keep that in mind. But that did not stop this account from widespread circulation. In 1971, a man named Ted Perry was inspired by this particular account and decided to write a script for a movie. When he sold his script to the studio, he was very clear that this was completely fictionalized. He was the author, but the studio decided that they thought it would be more moving if people believed this was the actual speech given by Chief Seattle himself. So they lied, and they were dirty for that. But I read the script myself and actually found one line in particular really interesting. So in this particular adaptation, Chief Seattle is writing a letter to the President of the United States, and he asks, once everything on the land has been captured, depleted, all of the resources have been exhausted, what then? He says the fate of the white man is a mystery to him, but one thing he knows is that their ways will lead to, and I quote, the end of living and the beginning of survival. Up until that point, I don't think I'd heard a more succinct description of modern American life. I think our society would have us believe that it is the other way around, that modernity brought on the end of our struggle to survive and the beginning of this age of convenient living. However, science is beginning to tell us otherwise. Humans are actually struggling to keep up with the ever-increasing pace of our world. A study by UC San Diego revealed that the average human is consuming about 34 gigabytes worth of information on a daily basis. We are more connected than ever before, and yet we lack community. We lack clarity, focus, and we are suffering from decision fatigue in a world of seemingly unlimited yet somehow inconsequential options. And we are surrounded by millions of unfiltered opinions that we're left to consider. It's a lot. It seems mental unrest and insatiable desires are symptoms of our time. We are left wanting for some of the most basic human needs like security, love, health, and belonging. We are suffering at the hands of the very machine we are sent to work every day to maintain, our very own metropolis. My mom actually texted me an article recently stating that Bill Gates is reportedly the largest farmland owner in the United States. What a literal tragedy. I have no words. This is the world we live in. It's crazy. Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once, never wonder what they're worth. I remember interning with this marketing firm, and my boss would take me and his assistant on meetings with him so that we could capture minutes and sometimes provide feedback. One of his clients was located in Thibodaux, Louisiana, and I remember we had to drive past all of this beautiful, lush, unadulterated bayou, and I'll never forget, my boss turned and said, "Luckily, all of this will be gone soon. Thibodaux is really developing rapidly, and it's becoming a city to watch and invest in." And I remember telling him that I thought that was so unfortunate, as something should really just be left alone. Why would all of this beautiful land be destroyed simply for a couple business strips and parking lots? And I'll never forget, he turned and said to me, "Sweetheart, that's what parks are for." How high does the sycamore grow? If you cut it down, then you'll never know. You can own the earth and still, all you'll own is earth until you can paint with all the colors of the wind. This portion of the video is going to be a little bit mukbangy because I did finish preparing my food and I'm gonna eat it. But I did want to take this time to say that this video is in no way intended to over-romanticize pre-modernity, and neither is it intended to make modernity seem like it is a bad thing altogether. But I do want to be critical of modernity, and I think this idea that as a society we're just constantly advancing for the better is simply untrue. And I think in maintaining that idea, we have lost a lot of ancient wisdom that could have proven very useful to us, especially in the time that we're in. Yeah, in essence, I think we've thrown the baby out with the bathwater. And because of that, I don't want to do the very same thing with modernity. Let's not repeat history. I think we need to keep the things that are serving us, that are serving humanity, that are serving the planet, and get rid of those things that aren't and rediscover some of those things from the past. Sometimes I honestly feel so out of place that I don't feel like I'm meant for this modern American lifestyle. And I don't say that to sound pretentious, and I really hope that's not how I'm coming off, because I in no way mean to judge anybody, especially not for doing what's necessary to survive in our society. I know I myself contribute to this machine in many of my own ways every single day. But what I do hope is that each of us, when presented with the opportunity to affect change and to impact this world for the better, I hope that we take all of those opportunities. I think that if some of the management at my previous job had taken that approach and taken on that attitude and made change where they really could, they would have improved the lives of so many people. They have so much power and they don't even acknowledge it. That being said, I think all of us have power in our own way. We have power in our communities, in our circles, and I hope that we use that power for good. In 2021, I really want to, I'm just picking over this food, y'all, that's what this looks like. But in 2021, I just really want to come into my own and embody who it is that I'm supposed to be. And yeah, I want to use my sensitivity, my empathy, and my quiet, all of these things that I've been told are not useful in today's society, and I want to use those things to create the change that I want to see in the world. So yeah, that is the goal this new year. I don't know who may need to hear this, but if you're looking for a sign, this is for you. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its entire life believing that it is stupid. Albert Einstein. So instead, listen to that little, warm, glowing voice inside you. Find your quiet place. I promise you, the world needs what you have to offer. You are more than your productivity. Feed your spirit, and the rest will follow. As always, laissez les bon temps rouler. Bye.